Hi everyone. Welcome to Secrets Behind the Stars, where whispers turn into stories and stories turn into moments you can feel. Settle in, because what you are about to hear has already melted timelines and set tongues wagging across the industry. And before we dive deep, remember to tap subscribe and share the love, because today's tale is as tender as it is unforgettable. You know how Halil Ibrahim Ceyhan guards his private life like a sacred script? He is the man who lets roles roar and heartbeats whisper. Yet this week, that quiet heart spoke out loud. He chose simplicity over spectacle, sincerity over glitter, and offered a proposal that shook the gossip universe precisely because it wasn't designed for a stage. It was designed for one person, Sıla Türkoğlu. What has everyone talking is not just that Halil proposed, but how he did it. There were no fireworks exploding across a skyline and no grand piano rolled into a ballroom just for show. Instead, there was the kind of setting that feels like a shared secret, a place where the breeze remembers their laughter and the ground seems to know their footsteps. The atmosphere was deliberately unadorned, just a few quiet touches that told the story of who they are together, calm, grounded, and real. And when his voice finally found its way through the emotion, it trembled, not from doubt, but from the truth that had been living inside him for years. Those who were close enough to witness, or close enough to be told precisely how it unfolded, say Halil had planned every second with the care of a composer. The colors, the light, the music that wasn't music at all, just the hush of a natural place where they both feel at peace. He thought about what plants she looks at twice, what scents make her smile, which angle the sun should kiss her face. He made sure that nothing was too much and everything was just enough. A tender minimalism, a rhythm that matched their heartbeat. And then, he spoke. He didn't deliver a rehearsed monologue, he offered a confession layered with years. He called her the strongest person he has ever known, the most refined, the truest. He said that loving her had rearranged his sense of time and steadied his sense of self. He admitted he had never felt so sure of anything, not even on the most confident day of his career. And then came the line that the internet lifted up and carried across continents. He told her she was the most beautiful woman on this earth. In different words, people have said it for centuries. In his voice, it landed like the first time anyone had ever dared to say it. The response from Sıla was as immediate as it was luminous. She didn't ask for a pause, she didn't ask for a moment to think, because they had been thinking their way to this moment together all along. She said yes. Then she folded into him, and for a while there were no more speeches to make. Witnesses describe a long, quiet embrace, the kind of embrace you can only share when both of you finally exhale the same breath. When she lifted her head, she smiled without noise. And he understood that the silence was not emptiness but fullness. Insiders have been talking about how deeply the gesture moved her. The ring wasn't too loud. The setting wasn't too loud. His words were everything. For Sıla, who has always radiated a kind of serene strength, the most precious part of the evening wasn't the ritual itself, but the way it named what already existed between them. Sources say she told those closest to her that she felt safe, cherished, and seen, as though the moment wrapped language around a bond that had been speaking wordlessly for so long. And of course, when love steps into the light, the past comes with it. Suddenly, fans and columnists are remembering how this story began. Long before the proposal, there were the first days on set, where respect formed a foundation sturdy enough to hold everything that would come later. Their circles overlapped naturally. Their conversations stretched easily from art to family, from work to the kind of life they dream of when the cameras stop. He had the calm of a harbor. She had the light of a summer morning. Two different forces, but they met in the middle and held. When awards nights rolled around, there were evenings when they walked hand in hand, not demanding attention but drawing it anyway. There were rare, carefully chosen posts on social media. Moments framed like postcards, glimpses that never overfed curiosity but always fed hope. Their followers would comment that the two looked right together, and sometimes that was all that needed to be said. Then the proposal, and now the rush of attention that never fully quiets after something like this. They have not announced a date, and every hint we hear suggests they won't be rushed. They want to stand in the glow and feel it, not sprint past it. Their careers are demanding. Their days move fast. But they have learned the art of slowing down for what matters. And perhaps that is the strongest vow of all, even before the vows. What has many people smiling is the detail that made hearts swell even more. Before the big question, Halil honored tradition. Quietly, respectfully, he sought the blessing of her family. He did it without publicity, without counting it as a gesture to display, but as a promise to keep. Later, when he gathered with his own family, he was all but glowing. Someone who knows him well says he described this as the finest decision of his life, a threshold that felt both new and entirely familiar. And what of Sıla? She is happiness without noise. She is the kind of woman who keeps working, keeps moving, not because she doesn't feel, but because she feels so deeply that she doesn't need to announce it every hour. People close to her talk about how she loves in verbs. She shows up. She listens. She remembers. She leaves warmth in the room when she walks out of it. In private, to her closest friends, she shared that this proposal felt like the moment the quiet story became a spoken promise. She is not surprised, they both saw this horizon coming, but she is still astonished by how tenderly he drew the line between past and future. Devoted followers have flooded the platforms with messages. They write that this is how love should sound. Clips of his trembling voice have been replayed, remixed, turned into soft edits and heartfelt tributes. The sentence about her beauty, reframed in countless captions, retold at countless dinner tables, has already become a favorite line in the language of romance. Few lines rise above their context. This one soared. And the industry has noticed. Colleagues who have watched them grow offered discreet congratulations, some with a wink, some with a hug, some with a sentence short enough to fit in a moment and long enough to live in a memory. What is striking experts, agents, writers, veteran producers, is how stripped back the whole thing was. No spectacle, all sincerity. In a world that can drown in the loudest possible version of everything, they picked a frequency close to a heartbeat. Let's talk about who he is, not as a headline, but as a man. On screen, Halil Ibrahim Ceyhan can be formidable, disciplined, magnetic, composed. Off-screen, especially in this chapter, he showed the softness that makes strength worth having. His vulnerability did not dilute his presence, it completed it. For fans who admire him, this was a revelation they had suspected but were waiting to witness. He did not play a role. He told the truth. And who is she in this moment? Sıla Türkoğlu is a portrait of grace under a brighter light. She has proven time and again that calm is not the absence of intensity, but a way of carrying it. She returned to set after the proposal as if keeping a secret pearl in her hand. She didn't need to pause the world. She simply let joy steady her. People who have worked with her claim that she's even more focused now, as if saying yes align not just her future but her present too. The more you study their dynamic, the more you see balance in action. He plans and protects. She energizes and elevates. He listens long. She laughs easy. Side by side, they dismantle each other's worries and amplify each other's strengths. This is why those in their orbit insist that what we're watching isn't a spur-of-the-moment sprint to a romantic finish line, but the logical next chapter in a story that has been taking shape from the start. And so the proposal doesn't end, it echoes. It echoes in the way their friends clinked glasses in small, private rooms, keeping flashbulbs far away. It echoes in family dinners where stories are retold between bites, and in late-night phone calls where a sister or cousin asks for details just one more time. It echoes in the way a city seems to conspire with lovers, carrying the rumor of a promise through streets and cafes and studios. Of course, the rumor mill will try to outrun reality. It always does. Dates will be guessed, venues imagined, gowns projected onto mood boards that no one in their circle has even seen. But what matters has already happened, a question asked from the center of a life, and an answer that fit like it was made to be spoken. They will share what they choose, when they choose. And in the meantime, we are all left with the sweetness of wondering. There is a smaller detail, easy to miss and impossible to forget. While planning the moment, Halil reportedly checked and rechecked a tiny watch he keeps when he is nervous, not because he was worried about time, but because he wanted the sun to sit exactly where she loves it most. He thought about seasons, about how evenings hold different colors at different times of year. He wanted the light to linger, just long enough for the question to float and land. He wanted the wind to be gentle. He wanted the earth to be kind. It was. People have been trading memories of earlier moments that, in hindsight, felt like flashes of this future. A shared joke at an award show. A protective glance in a crowded corridor. A quiet walk captured by a fan from across the street, where neither of them were performing for a lens, just people navigating an ordinary day together. All of it looks different now, bathed in the glow of what we know. And if you're wondering what comes next, you're not alone. Will they choose a ceremony under the open sky, where their vows can climb into the blue? Or a small room with walls that once listened to family stories and now will listen to theirs? Will the first dance be a song we all recognize, or a piece of music only they understand? Those answers belong to them. The only answer we have is this one: they were ready. Meanwhile, fan art has sprung up like wildflowers. Edits of their most cherished scenes sit beside sketches of hands, of rings, of a single look at sunset. Writers are writing about them, singers are singing about them, and somewhere a teenager has promised herself that love can be quiet and still feel like fire. That is the power of a moment handled with care. We are told that in the earliest hours after the proposal, when the first messages began to arrive in waves, Halil replied to friends with a mix of disbelief and certainty. He thanked those who had stood beside them through the swirl of rumors, and he laughed about how the simplest plan he had ever made was the one that demanded the most courage. Later, when exhaustion finally found him, he slept harder than he had in months, and when he woke, the world looked the same and felt brand new. Sıla, on the other hand, sent little notes, the kind that say everything by saying only what matters. She told one friend she could feel the future leaning in. She told another that she keeps touching her ring not to show it off, but to remind herself that the story in her heart has a shape now. She told her family that she had never felt so protected and so free at the same time. Even now, people are replaying that trembling voice, that steady answer, that quiet embrace. They are teaching themselves to love like this, not by raising the volume, but by raising the truth. And if the phrase about her beauty continues to travel, it is because it was less a description than a recognition. He did not compare. He did not compete. He simply said, in his own way, that the world was at its most beautiful when it looked like her. So here we are, at the edge of a chapter that is still being written. We can guess and we can hope, but the best thing we can do is watch with respect. Watch the way they work and don't stop. Watch the way they love and don't shout. Watch the way they turn a private promise into a public example of something we don't see enough, a love that doesn't perform, a love that simply is. We will keep listening for the details you care about, and we will bring them to you when the time is right. For now, hold this moment with them. Let it sit. Let it glow. Let it remind you that the biggest gestures don't always come with the biggest lights, and that sometimes the truest stories are whispered first. You've been with Secrets Behind the Stars, and we are honored to have shared this beautiful chapter with you. If this touched you, if it made you believe a little more in the quiet power of love, make sure you subscribe, share, and stay close. The next page is coming, and when it turns, you'll hear it here first. Until then, take care, hold the people you love a little closer tonight, and remember that the simple things stay longest, especially when they're spoken from the heart.